Welcome to the History AI podcast, where the past comes alive with facts, anecdotes, and a dash of humor. Here are your hosts, Chuck and Marco.
Welcome back everyone to another episode of the History AI podcast. I'm your host Chuck.
And I'm Marco. And today we're diving deep into the Battle of Megiddo. Ready to jump on a time-traveling adventure, Chuck?
Always am, Marco. You know I'm a sucker for ancient history. But before we do, let's set the stage for our listeners. This world is about to be a lot different than they're used to.
Right you are. We're looking at a world more than 3,000 years ago. No cell phones, no internet, no TikTok dances. The time, 15th century BC. The major powers, Egypt, the Mitanni, the Hittites, and the many Canaanite city-states.
Ah, simpler times. All you had to worry about was the occasional chariot chase and whether your sandals matched your tunic.
Right. But on to the Battle of Megiddo. This was a massive military confrontation during the reign of Pharaoh Thutmose III of Egypt.
The Egyptians, at this point, were aiming to re-establish their dominance in the region after the death of Queen Hatshepsut.
And they were up against a coalition of Canaanite city-states led by the king of Kadesh. A real David versus Goliath scenario, if David had a bunch of city-states backing him up.
So, what was the plan, Marco?
Pharaoh Thutmose III planned a surprise attack through a narrow pass. It was risky, as the wider roads were better for chariots, but this narrow route would allow the Egyptians to hit their enemies where they least expected.
The old surprise it's us tactic. Classic.
As for troops, Thutmose's army was robust, with chariots, infantry, and archers.
But the Canaanite forces were no pushovers. They held a strong defensive position in Megiddo, and they had chariots and warriors of their own.
Precisely. Now, as the battle commenced, one heroic story stands out. There's an account of an Egyptian soldier, Nephahor, who charged ahead of the main forces and brought back enemy soldiers as prisoners. Single-handedly. Talk about being Employee of the Month.
Absolutely. As for tactics, the Egyptians used a mix of chariots to break enemy lines and archers to rain arrows down on their foes. And when it came to hand-to-hand combat, their infantry closed in.
The battle raged on, but in the end, Megiddo fell to the Egyptians. And while the city was besieged for about 7 months, this victory was instrumental in re-establishing Egyptian dominance in the Levant.
And it wasn't just about the immediate gains. The significance of this battle in the grand scheme was huge. It cemented Thutmose III's reputation as a warrior pharaoh and showcased Egyptian military might.
As for casualties, both sides suffered. While exact numbers are hard to pin down from ancient records, it was undoubtedly a brutal affair.
And the lasting impact? This battle went down in history as one of the earliest recorded military conflicts. It demonstrated the importance of strategy, planning, and the element of surprise.
And let's not forget its importance to archaeologists and historians. The detailed records left behind give an incredible insight into warfare during the New Kingdom period of Egypt.
Speaking of insights, we're going to take a quick break for a word from our sponsor. But stick around, because when we come back, we'll discuss how this battle truly changed the course of the war. From the mind behind the History AI podcast comes an electrifying journey into the past. A ripple through time, Franklin's Folly. Dive into a tale where Benjamin Franklin, America's beloved inventor, takes an unexpected journey through time. But with his leap, he unleashes a powerful ripple. Now, with dark forces lurking in the shadows, harnessing this energy to shatter and enslave the world, it's a race against time. Will Franklin fix the future? Or will history rewrite itself? Uncover the secrets. A ripple through time, Franklin's Folly. Time has never been more fragile. On Amazon pre-sale now.
Welcome back, folks. Now, Chuck, how did this battle change the war's course?
Great question. The Battle of Megiddo really broke the back of the Canaanite coalition. With Megiddo under Egyptian control, many city-states either surrendered or made peace treaties with Egypt. It was a turning point.
And that's the thing about history, isn't it? One battle, one decision, can change the fate of empires.
Well put, Marco. But before we wrap up today's episode, we'd like to thank our listeners for joining us on this journey.
Absolutely. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate us, follow, and share the podcast. And remember, you can suggest topics through our social media channels.
We always love hearing from you. From the sands of ancient Egypt to the battlefields of tomorrow, we're here to bring history to life.
So, until next time, I'm Marco.
And I'm Chuck. Stay curious, stay passionate, and keep on learning.